Hey everybody, welcome back to Mask of the Slasher. We're going to do an episode today on a movie that just came out that we were pleasantly surprised by.
Yeah.
That movie would be Longlegs.
Yeah.
I hadn't really paid much attention to this movie in any way.
Mm-hmm.
And it's mostly because, you know, we've discussed it where it just drives me nuts when people just beat a dead horse.
Right.
And so I'm just like, oh, whatever, shut up about it, you know. And I have to say it was kind of a dumb name. So I just really was like, oh, is this about, like, spiders? You know? So I was just like, eh. But Josh had me watch the preview, I don't know, whatever day that was last week.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, shit, we should probably go see that. We should see that. So, yeah, we went and saw Longlegs last Tuesday, I think is when it was.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, we're going to talk about that. Yeah.
I was pleasantly surprised to find out there was going to be yet another batshit crazy Nicolas Cage movie, so I was trying to talk her into it, but she was kind of like not wanting to get on the hype train with me for it, so
Well,
it took a little convincing.
You know, a big part of it is that I am not the biggest fan of all the weird Nicolas Cage stuff that you like.
Yeah.
You know, whatever, I don't even remember the two movies I've had to watch in the last couple of years with you with him in it, and I'm just, I don't know, something with color or something.
Color Out of Space,
Yeah.
It's H.P. Lovecraft, yeah.
So freaking weird.
Yeah, it was far out.
Yeah, so it's, you know, I like Nicolas Cage. I've always liked him, but there, after watching that,
Yeah.
the Color in Space and Crayons in Space or whatever it is, I just was like, this is rough. This is rough. But also, I mean, I'm not some big, huge H.P. Lovecraft fan by any
Right.
means. So I'm sure it meant more to other people,
Right,
you know,
right.
that are fans of that stuff. It just wasn't me.
Yeah.
So, but the fun part about this is that I couldn't even tell it was him.
Right.
So, spoilers ahead.
Oh, yeah, definitly spoiler alert on
Because
this
there's
one.
no way, this would be the shortest video ever.
Yeah, exactly.
So we're gonna, yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Sorry.
Sorry. Okay, so this was directed by Oz Perkins. Now, when I was looking him up, because I'm like, I really have no idea who this person is.
Right.
I learned that he was the dorky guy that was in Legally Blonde.
Okay.
And I thought, that's weird. It's just a weird thing, you know, for him to transition to this.
Yeah. I just knew he was Anthony Perkins' son. That was it.
There you go. And he probably liked going to the restaurant Perkins when it still existed. So, but after, of course, you know, looking at, you know, all my little tiny research that I could do since it's a new movie.
Right.
He directed movies that we have watched.
Yeah. Surprised.
One of them, which we are not covering because it wasn't that great, but Blackcoat's Daughter.
Yeah.
This one was a big disappointment to me because it just went nowhere, in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't even really remember it that well, to be honest. So
Exactly.
It didn't leave much of an impression on me.
It was like a stale piece of bread for me. That's the only way I could describe it. Sorry, of it. Stale piece of bread. And then one that I don't know that you've actually watched it. I know I have.
Okay.
But it's a long ass name.
Okay.
I Am the Pretty Thing That Lives in the House, and
I don't think I watched that one.
it's not good. I also didn't like it, but I can't remember the actress, the main actress in it, but I didn't care for her either.
Okay.
So, you know,
Yeah.
it just wasn't that great in my
Okay.
opinion. And then Hansel and Gretel.
Now, that one I liked because it
That
was
one
weird.
Good.
It was far out.
Yeah, it was really weird. And probably gonna watch it again and cover it again.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing that again, actually.
And we'll probably be eating the breadcrumbs from Blackcoat's
Breadcrumb
Daughter.
Trail.
Yeah. So anyway, so yeah, that's who this director is. If you didn't know, now you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't know, now you know.
Anyway, so like I said, Nicolas Cage is in this. If you don't know who Nicolas Cage is,
For the love of God.
I don't know how you can. I've known about him since Peggy Sue got married.
Yeah.
That was the first thing. Oh no, wait.
I think.
No, there was another vampire movie.
Oh,
he was
yeah.
in.
Was it called Vampire's Kiss, maybe?
Yeah, from the 80s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that was probably the first thing I saw him in, but the first thing that stood out to me that he was in was Raising Arizona.
I never watched that movie.
Oh, you've never seen it?
Oh,
It's so
gosh.
good.
I
love that movie.
It just looks hot.
It is hot. It does. It's a hot movie, but
See?
it's super good.
Just. Ugh. So anyway, but the person that is in this is when I want to go see a new movie or whatever, I don't look at anything. because I would like to be surprised. I don't want to know a bunch of stuff, and I don't. It's ironic. I don't want to know anybody else's opinions.
Right.
So, but here you are watching ours. The main character in this, she is Agent Lee Harker. She's an FBI agent, a young one at that, and she's played by Micah Monroe. Now, I really didn't know her from a lot of things except It Follows.
Yeah.
And I always thought that she did such a good job in that I always wanted to see her in something else.
Right.
So I was glad to finally be able to do that,
Yeah.
you know. She was also in a movie called Watcher that Josh
was good.
said that we watched.
We did. It was good.
I don't remember
Yeah,
it.
we both liked it.
Oh,
I guess that one's due for a rewatch.
yeah,
I
I got to have
guess.
to rewatch that one. And then there is a sequel to It Follows coming out called They Follow. She is back in that one. very excited. I really hope that they have the little compact
Oh yeah, the little
phone.
seashell phone thing.
That
yeah.
is so funny. Oh my gosh. And why hasn't somebody created that
Right?
yet? That was really cool.
It was cool.
It's so stupid, but
Yeah.
cool. Anyway, she is unrecognizable also in this.
Oh, see, I knew who it was.
Well, no-
I also watched previews and stuff.
Exactly.
I'm
And
a trailer junkie.
Yeah.
Which can be bad too, because these days there's trailers out there that will give away the entire movie, which I hate.
Yeah.
The trailer for this did a pretty good job of keeping it.
Yeah, because I had no idea.
know.
I was anticipating one thing and got another.
Yeah, exactly.
So, but yeah, I just didn't put it together for some reason. I think it was mostly because I was distracted from the assholes in the theater. We'll talk about that in a minute.
Yeah,
But so she's not one of those actresses that plays herself in every single
Right.
thing. And I think that, although that's what people say, I really don't feel like that's what actually happens. It's just that they have certain mannerisms and stuff that
Yeah.
it's just in us.
Right.
And they can't force them out for whatever reason. But in this movie, she did. She did not act anything like what I have seen her in before.
Right.
So she just did such a good job with it. I was like, she just was able to just turn off those emotions
Yeah.
and be so dry.
Yeah. Super awkward. Yeah.
Yes, she was great.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So the other person that's in this that is notable, in my opinion, is Alicia Witt.
Yeah.
She plays Agent Lee Harper's mom in this.
Right.
Now, also, like I said, I didn't do a lot of research on this beforehand, so I didn't realize till afterwards. This is going to deep dive, but I'm old. She was in Mr. Holland's Opus. She was the redhead that played the clarinet that had a really hard time with it. And like I said, I don't know why that stood out to me, but that was another character that she had to play two parts, essentially. She had to play the crazy and the regular person.
Right.
Well, regular person,
Yeah,
really.
yeah.
She was still kind of a wackadoo.
Yeah. Yeah.
She did such a good job of like separating the two roles. A lot of times when somebody has gone crazy or whatever, they just put them in some hospital pajamas and they're the same person.
Right.
But that was not the case in
Right,
this.
right.
Yeah. And she was also unrecognizable to me until
Yeah.
afterwards.
Well, yeah, 'cause she's been in things I've seen, Urban Legend, she was in that, and then also she was in Sopranos only for like one or two episodes.
It was one episode.
But I didn't realize it was her.
The one that you didn't know, she was the little girl in the original Dune.
Oh, right, yeah, had no idea.
Yeah, and I think that was her first movie.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Basically, it is a murder mystery,
Yeah,
serial killer.
yeah,
There you go.
yes.
And Nicolas Cage's character, Longlegs, it's not some big surprise. You're not going to be surprised by this because
Yeah.
he's in the first scene of the
Yeah,
movie.
exactly.
And you see his crazy ass.
Yeah.
But you know what it reminded me of? Who he reminded me of, aside from just really bloated and weird?
Yeah.
But remember Atlanta, the show Atlanta? And they had that weird last episode where it was supposed to be like Michael Jackson, but it was like a poofy, weird version.
Oh, yeah.
And we were both like, what the fuck are we
Yeah,
watching?
yeah.
That's,
Oh, yeah, good call.
it looks just like,
Yeah.
for some reason.
Yeah, no, I see it.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I had a hard time getting past that, just a little bit, but not much. But yeah, he plays Longlegs, and the name itself, I was like, where does this come from? In the opening scene, also not a big surprise because I think it was even in a preview.
Yeah.
But he says to this little girl that he approaches, "I have on my long legs today,"
Yeah.
and it still didn't really scream at me as to why. But it ended up being his moniker
Right.
later on in his weird cryptic letters and things like that. But I think what it was because the angle of the first scene was from the little girl's view.
Right.
You could only see up to here.
Yeah.
So I felt like it was one of those things like, oh, well, it's a tall person.
Right.
So they were trying to make light of the fact that they're tall and scary.
Right.
So that's the only thing I could put it, you know.
Right.
And the other part is that he lives in a basement, which is where spiders are.
Right, yeah.
I don't know. That's what I got out of it.
No.
He is freaking crazy.
He's terrifying.
Yeah. And I think more so than a lot of boogeymen,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
in movies.
yeah.
Because it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, he's so far out, it like borders on the absurd.
Yeah.
But it's grounded just enough to be scary, I think.
Yeah.
Because it's like, yeah, it's outlandish, but at the same time, he could still almost be a real person, too.
Exactly.
It's like, it teeters right on that brink.
Well, yeah, and why is his face so jacked up?
Yeah.
The only thing I thought of is, you know, he's a doll maker, and he was trying to have more of a doll face.
Yeah.
And it kind of just reminded me once again of that woman who had so many injections and made herself look like a cat.
Yeah.
There's just way too much stuff going on, so you're just so poofy and your eyes get really small. I think that was the only thing with him that really gave him away was his eyes.
Yeah.
But if that's all, I'm like, holy shit, you know.
Yeah.
The movie was supposedly placed in Oregon. You find that out because you're in a police station at one point, or the FBI facility, whatever you want, building. I don't know. But there's the Oregon flag.
Right.
You know, there's nothing really that discusses it otherwise.
Yeah.
It's never the case, though, that it's actually filmed in Oregon.
Right.
It's filmed in Vancouver.
Yeah.
Every single time.
Yeah, though they have been filming stuff here lately, so.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we know of one thing in particular since our friend is in it.
Yep.
But it's still, you know.
Yeah.
And that just gave us away.
Well.
Where we are.
Yeah.
We're going to have to go back into the bunker soon.
Yeah.
Get some cyanide.
That's true.
But this movie, not only is Nicolas Cage's character amazing, and the other actresses, that all of it was great. But once again, cinematography.
Oh, yeah.
Just, it got me immediately. And I think it started off at the beginning when they were doing the opening scene portion of it, and it was in the size of the old photos, like from when we were kids.
Yeah.
I don't know how to describe these because I don't know what size they were, whatever. I have some.
Yeah.
That's what I can tell
Just
you.
those little square photos.
Yeah, and they had the rounded edges.
Yeah.
So anytime that there was a flashback, that's what it was, which actually makes you feel like you're in it.
Right.
Which was cool. This was placed in the 90s.
Yeah.
And you find that out partially because of just timelines, but also because Bill Clinton's photograph is up on the wall in the FBI thing. And so I thought that was cool because that was like an attention to detail thing that they didn't have to do.
Yeah, it's super subtle, which I like. It's not like they tried to be overtly 90s with it. It was just things here and there that kind of told you when it was, you know.
Well, yeah, because they could have been like wearing like Junko jeans. Yeah. And that would have been a giveaway right there. Yeah. But so going back to cinematography, that right there and set design, that in itself was its own character. And I love wood paneling. Josh hates it. I absolutely love it. I love 70s.
A little goes a long way.
Yeah, exactly.
That's all I'm gonna say.
But I never grew up in a house that had an entire room that had wood paneling. I always just thought it was cool. What it reminded me of was True Detective, the original episode, or the original season. Yeah. Because you think of Matthew McConaughey sitting in the police station with the wood paneling behind him. Before we continue talking about this movie.
Yes.
So Josh and I, when we went to go see this, but this adult family came in and sat down. I was on the end of the row because I hate being in the middle, really. But sat down next to Josh and proceeded, two of them at least, proceeded during the movie to look at their phones and text.
Yeah.
And you could hear the tiny chime. It wasn't super loud, but it was enough to be distracting.
Yeah.
Thankfully, Josh, with his long legs, was able to put one knee up because we had the recliners and could block that person.
Yeah.
And he knew because I get very distracted by assholes in theaters.
Yes.
I don't understand why you go to a theater and go see a movie and then sit there and dick with your phone.
Well, yeah, and if quite frankly, if the theater hadn't been packed, I would have said, let's move.
It said rather audibly loud, you've got to be fucking kidding me, or something like that.
And these days, people are so crazy. I'm nervous to say anything to somebody because you just don't know, you know. There's people getting shot in theaters over arguments about talking and stuff like that, you know. It's dark. You don't know who that other person is. So
No.
I'm always nervous to say anything to somebody else about, you know, put your phone away or be quiet or whatever, you know.
Exactly. And, you know, the thing with this movie, because I don't understand people doing that stuff in theaters. So after we watched it, I read a couple people's comments about the movie. A lot of people were bored by it.
Right.
And I think it was because it wasn't slow paced by any means, but you had to use your brain.
Right, exactly. You had to use your brain, and it's not just hitting you over the head with information and action. And, you know, people are so used to now you go to the theater and you're just getting hit over the head with CGI and action and explosions and everything's being over explained. And this was none of that.
It was a thinker.
Yeah.
It was, which is the other reason why I really have to concentrate, because normally when we do these videos, when we're watching something at home, there's at least 5-6 pages of notes that are being done. Obviously, I couldn't do that. This guy might not have cared, though. I mean, can you just flash your light over here so I can write my notes?
Exactly.
Asshole.
Exactly.
But I think that's what it is that a lot of times with movies these days, that's what I read in comments. They don't understand it, or it's boring to them because they didn't get instant gratification from something.
Right.
And it's like, use your brain.
Yeah.
You do have it for a reason. We don't always have to have our information slapped in the face constantly.
Right.
And another thing that somebody said was, I wish that they had gone into Longleg's backstory more. This is what we've talked about 1,000 times.
Yeah.
That we don't need that.
Yeah.
It's done these days, but because this movie was put into a different time period and the director was conscious of this, he did not give us that backstory. Right. And I was absolutely okay with it.
And it makes you think more and use your imagination more. You're like, who is this guy? Where did he come from? Why is he the way he is? It makes you just you can let your imagination run wild if you let it. And I bring this, and I'm sorry, this is going to be a bad nerdy analogy, but I bring it back to, for me, the first time that really ever happened in a movie was in Empire Strikes Back, when they show all the bounty hunters and Boba Fett. And they don't tell you anything about these people except for Darth Vader says to Boba Fett, no disintegrations, and that's it. And it's like, how scary must this guy be if Darth Vader is admonishing him not to disintegrate anybody?
Yeah.
You know, it's like, that made my imagination run wild, you know? And that's what I love about a good movie that doesn't explain everything.
Well,
you know what I mean?
It makes it eerier and creepier to you to go, what happened to this person? How did they get this way? And how do they still continue? Because, Freddy Krueger, we found out a backstory.
Right.
So he's still terrifying. God help me, he was still terrifying.
Yeah.
But we didn't know his backstory. We just knew he was a kitty tickler and he was burned.
It's just enough.
Just enough. Just a sprinkle of holy shit, and then you step away.
Yeah.
But having to learn the backstory of everybody is exhausting, and it does take away the imagination portion of it. It's like going to a strip club, an all-nude strip club. You leave nothing to the imagination. It's all there for you to see, and I just don't get it. So put your phones away.
Yes,
pay
for the love
attention
of
to the
God.
movie. If you don't like it, leave.
Yeah.
Just don't go.
Yeah.
Just
don't go if that's
yeah. Okay, so back to our regular programming here. I think with this movie, like we mentioned earlier, that we anticipated one thing and got something else. And while we were sitting there watching the 4,000 previews that we had just watched a week prior when we went to see Maxine, like M. Night Shyamalan Ding Dong's movie, I felt like that was just all explained. And it probably isn't, but that's what you feel in the preview.
Right.
We saw other previews that were not that bad. They were like that, the Heretic.
Yeah.
Cannot wait for that to come out.
Yeah, it looks interesting.
So I think that was kind of cool to be surprised by something.
Yeah.
There's a lot of little plot twists and turns. You feel like it's being handed to you.
Right.
But it really isn't.
Right.
You really are like, you were thrown through a loop when you find out everything.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And I thought it was such a creative and weird way for all of this to unfold.
Yes.
And I've never heard of it before. It's never been used before.
Right.
And it was just phenomenal because of that.
Yes.
So, and there are points early on in the movie where things are kind of set up for you, like with her and her mom and the phone calls and that kind of stuff. And then you find out why.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of neat too, because it doesn't give you, oh, well, that must be why this happened. It's just like, oh, that's just a weird part of her, and that's why she has a weird personality.
Yeah.
Because her mom's a Fruit Loop.
Yeah.
Something else I noticed about this movie is it felt like you were stuck in that time. It felt like these characters were stuck.
Yeah.
Like they could not get out of the 70s and 80s.
Right.
I thought that was interesting because we were talking about claustrophobia with Rosemary's Baby, but I feel like that's what these people are into.
Right.
They're in this small FBI office
Yeah.
and small resources.
Right, yeah.
And yet they so they're just struggling to get out of it.
Right.
And struggling to get out of this story. And like I said, I don't want to give anything else away, but that's what's happening ultimately with the main characters. So that's why I think that this is such a well-rounded movie. It had everything I wanted.
Yeah.
It had long legs. It had weird faces.
Yeah.
Wood paneling. Trees.
Yeah.
I don't know. Sorry.
Yeah. I agree with Krista. This movie gave me everything I wanted. I thought it was going to be one thing, and it took me in a totally different direction, And again, I like that not everything was explained, Like, even when you find out, obviously you'll know from the previews that it's a serial killer situation. Even when they explain, like, how the killings are happening and stuff like that, they still don't explain everything.
No.
You know what I mean? So, yeah, it's a great movie to let the imagination run wild, and I think that makes it much scarier. The performances are fantastic, as Krista has mentioned. Nicolas Cage is on full crazy Nicolas Cage mode, which is always fun to see. There's not too many actors that are willing to go to that place anymore, so I think it's great to see that. And yeah, this was a fantastic movie, gave me everything I wanted, and I look forward to seeing more from Mr. Perkins.
I'm looking forward to this movie coming out on Blu-ray.
Oh yeah, I want to watch it again.
And again and again, because it was so good. It had so many parts to it that I feel like I even debated on going back to the theater and watching it again. Obviously, they're going to have extra stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Which
and then you'll really get to dig into it, hopefully. Hopefully they have good special features.
Yeah. I recommend you guys go see this movie.
Oh yeah.
If you have seen it, what did you think about it? I really feel like it's either a love or hate situation. And like I said, I think it's because you either want to think or you don't.
Right.
Sometimes we do it where we just want to put something on and not think.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Or take a nap.
Yeah.
But I think that with this one, it's worth thinking for.
Oh, for sure.
It's worth spending that time and that effort to really go through it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Yeah, I don't know. I don't have anything else.
Yeah, I got nothing.
Okay. All right. So we don't say it all the time anymore, but please like and subscribe.
Yes.
We do appreciate your support for our channel and for us. I would appreciate any sharing, liking, commenting, subscribing, all of the above, because that's the way that YouTube channels work.
Yeah.
That's how the algorithm makes them continue going.
That's right.
Is by your actions.
Yes.
So anyway, we'll see you next week.
Yeah.
All right. Bye. Bye.